On tonight's episode of Mr. Norris's In Case You Missed It, we look at the Boston Massacre. But don't get too excited, it's the least massacreiest massacre of all time. Hey, hi, hello, and what is up, everybody? It's your favorite history teacher, Mr. Norris, with the good hair. And tonight we're going to be talking about a little event called the Boston Massacre, which takes place March 5th, 1770 in the city of Boston. It is a crucial event in talking about events leading up towards the Revolutionary War. But before we jump into it, we need to set the stage, right? Why did this take place? Well, in 1770, the city of Boston was under British occupation, all right, meaning that British soldiers were present in the city and they were kind of keeping things in order. Why, you might ask? Well, as the kids say, Bostonians at the time were acting a fool. They were protesting perceived unfair British taxes and laws such as the Stamp Act, which eventually gets repealed, the Townshend Acts, as well as other things, right? The situation in the city between the British soldiers there and the citizens of Boston was, in a word, not good. That's two words, actually. But the situation was not good. Bostonians blamed British soldiers for doing things like taking their jobs, as they needed employment when they were not, on the clock soldiering, and just a lot of just bicker back and forth in the streets. Okay, so let's fast forward to March 5th, 1770. What takes place? Well, I actually went on a tour of Boston this summer, and my tour guide said that the Boston Massacre stemmed from an argument over a haircut. Yeah, that's right, a haircut. Talk about making a mountain out of an anthole. Apparently, a British soldier got his haircut on King Street, right by the old State House, and refused payment, and a huge argument broke out between colonists and this British soldier, and eventually other British soldiers that were down by the old Custom House came to his aid. Now, eventually, tensions boil, shots are fired, and 5 colonists are left dead. When I was back in school, we literally just got taught that British soldiers fired and murdered 5 Bostonians for no reason, don't ask questions. But that's really not what took place at all, okay? What ensued is these British soldiers that came to defend this guy that didn't pay for his haircut, apparently, they were being attacked by a mob in Boston. Okay, the colonists that came to this little fray on King Street, they brought clubs, they brought ice, they brought stones. They're throwing clubs at the British soldiers. They're cursing at them, hitting them with ice, hitting them with rocks. And a lot of them were screaming, fire, fire, I dare you to fire. There were so many calls of fire in the middle of the street that actually people in Boston, some of them that were on the outer areas of King Street, thought there was actually a fire. And people were bringing buckets of water, and they're like, oh, no fire, just a giant fight. Great. All right, so the British soldiers fire into this crowd, because they're doing all this stuff. A couple of the British soldiers get knocked to the ground, and it seems like they act in self-defense, right? Now, immediately after this, the Sons of Liberty get on their propaganda train, and famous Son of Liberty, Paul Revere, makes an engraving called The Bloody Massacre, right? Which is purposely trying to, stoke the flames of rebellion and spread propaganda, right? This is like the original fake news. In fact, Mr. Revere, I'm going to call this very fake news. All right. In this Bloody Massacre engraving, right? Just first of all, calling it the Boston Massacre, the Bloody Massacre, 5 people died. That's like the least massacreiest massacre I've ever heard of, right? So that title just is trying to make you think that the British are really, really bad. In his engraving, though, it's just wildly inaccurate, right? The colonists are fleeing, the scene, not doing anything. The British are just firing at them for no reason. There's even like a cute little puppy on the colonist side. So it's like, oh, they're even murdering a dog. And above the British soldier's head, it says Butcher's Hall, right? It's just crazy inaccurate to get people in the colonies to really, really, feel negatively towards British forces, right? The engraving is just not accurate. The scene probably would have looked more like this, right? Where you see clubs and ice and rocks being hailed down on these British soldiers. So what happens to these guys? Well, there's 8 British soldiers that actually fired on the crowd, and a trial ensues. Little known fact, or it's becoming a more widely known fact, John Adams, a lawyer in Boston, agrees to take up this trial, and he becomes the lawyer for the British soldiers. Yes, he was a founding father. Yes, he was definitely for the patriot cause, but he's also just a man of justice, and he actually thinks that these guys might have a case, that they might have acted in self-defense. Well, the trial ensues, and it becomes public knowledge that what happened on King Street was more of a riot than like a peaceful gathering. The outcomes of the trial, 6 of the 8 soldiers are found to be innocent. that they acted in self-defense. 2 are found to be considered manslaughterers. They are branded with an M and sent back to merry old England. And John Adams actually gets, at first a lot of hate from people in Boston that he's, the king's man. But then afterwards, a lot of people give him credit for, defending justice and defending the values that we all, cherish in this country. As far as bigger picture aftermath, even though these soldiers are found not guilty, people's minds in the colonies and in Boston are pretty much already made up. The British are bad, and a lot of that has to stem from this false engraving that gets thrown out there. People's minds have already been decided, and this is going to lead us down the road to more events leading us to the Revolution, Boston Tea Party, Intolerable Acts, all that good stuff. So there you have it, folks. That's the story of the Boston Massacre, the actual story of the Boston Massacre. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy history. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to my channel, Mr. Norris's History Class. Ignore my dog growling in the background here. Remember, folks, history is life. In the words of General George Washington, the surest basis for public happiness is knowledge. So go out there and get some. Have a good night.